Welcome to the Blackout Show, presented by the Guillen Grid, a show about the Chicago White Sox baseball, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll debate what's working and what's not on the south side of Chicago. It's old school versus new school baseball. And most importantly, we're keeping all the receipts.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Tonight, obviously, you have Jay and I. However, we have a nice twist to this. We're going to bring one of our special guests on for the second time on the Blackout.
Really?
And this is someone that actually, going with the news from last week with Ozzie Guillen's news, we're going to bring someone that actually brought him to Chicago in the first place. Someone that knows them on the back of their hand and has been truly, a one-of-a-kind talent in the game of baseball. Jay, how excited are you for this guest that we're about to bring on again?
Oh, man, I was waiting all week for this. Even though our White Sox gave us a dub today, the highlight of my night starts right now on the Blackout. So you want to get a scale or a rating, I'm about at 11 out of 10.
That's about the home run number that Murakami is going to get to this week. So,
okay, all right, fire me up.
All right, tonight's guest is Dan Evans. He is the former Los Angeles Dodgers general manager with over 4 decades in professional baseball, holding decision-making roles with 5 MLB franchises. An Ankeny resident, I hope I pronounced that right, Dan. He recently serves as the director of development for the Iowa Sports Hub, a nonprofit youth sports complex. And yes, folks, we're getting into the bio because I know there's some of our listeners are new to our Blackout, so they're going to hear this man's full resume. He is a Chicago native. He began his career with the Chicago White Sox and has spent time with the Chicago Cubs, Dodgers, Seattle Mariners, and almost champions of last year, the Blue Jays, just a couple outs shy of that. Evans' winning percentage was the second best in franchise history at the time of his departure. Evans was the chief operating officer of Go the Distance Baseball, LLC, from 2001 to 2003, overseeing the Field of Dreams movie site, which generated record revenues and hosted the highly successful 2021 and 2022 MLB regular season games at the Deersville site, which drew record TV streaming audiences. And obviously we've seen that with our, clip of the show with Tim Anderson's walk-off in that first game. Last but not least, Evans mentors the sports management worldwide baseball GM and scouting course, helping nearly 500 alumni work in baseball. He is the former president of the Cyber Board of Directors and a baseball reference brand ambassador. He is a pioneer in baseball technology and analysis, and Forbes has cited his Twitter account of Dan Evans 108 as a top 100 must-follow sports business Twitter account. Folks, this is Dan Evans. Dan, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
Thanks, guys. Chris, Jay, thank you both. I'm glad I'm coming on after a win. It's always a little easier.
Yes. Yes.
Not only a win, but a series win, which we haven't really seen enough of this year for the White Sox, but hopefully we do see more. Dan, before we get into our little, dialogue discussion, and again, I know I mentioned this about the show, but last week we got to react to the retirement news that the Sox are going to retire Ozzie Guillen's number on August 8th. And conveniently, I thought it'd be a great time to bring you on again with us. And not only to have you on, but I know this means a lot to you. I mean, you are the man that brought, Ozzie Guillen to the city of Chicago. And you saw right off the bat him as a player develop, into his career and then get into it as a manager, and then ultimately bring the White Sox their first championship in over, what was that, 70 years, if I remember right, or something along those lines.
That's a long time, Jack.
You've seen this man develop into a true Chicago legend. And I want you are the one that can talk most about him out of all of us here. I want you to have your story, give us what this means to you. Jerry coming to this moment, doing this for, Senior and his family, but not only give us your reaction, but go ahead and give us, some thoughts and experiences that you've had with Ozzie and your true story moment here with him.
Yeah. Chris, I've known him for more than 40 years. I met him when he was 20 years old. And just some background, there was a group of us with the White Sox in 1984. We got out to a really bad start after winning 99 games the previous year. And about at the midpoint, it was evident that we weren't going to qualify for the postseason. So Jerry Krause, who later became the general manager of the Bulls, was a brilliant baseball evaluator, sat down with Roland Heeman and myself about how we were going to utilize our assets to give ourselves a shortstop who could be a long-term asset to our club. So the goal was to isolate players who fit that criteria, who could be long-term solutions, and candidly, guys, not a Band-Aid. We had a great pitching staff, and we had a terrific offensive team, and we had La Russa as our manager. So we isolated, I believe, 6, maybe 7 young shortstops. They all played in the big leagues, and they were all really, really good players. But they were A, AA, AAA at this point. And we knew we were going to have to make a big trade to shake things up. This was Roland's first time bringing me into the decision-making process, but more importantly, guys, the preparation process. I was 24 years old, and it was new to me. Well, we had this new computer system that was, today we would giggle about, but at that time, we were the only team in baseball using this incredible technology. At the same time, I'm our eye in the sky for La Russa, all of our pitching and defense during the game. So before and after every game, I coordinated with Jerry Krause, his whereabouts, his schedule, what he saw, and then collected as much data as we could at that point. I mean, again, guys, this is 40 years ago, but we were able to pilfer video and various things. Krause did an amazing job identifying these players. And then we had some other scouts go in without knowing we were doing this and just ask for reports on some of these various players. When it was all done, Krause decided Guillen was the best option. And Roland talked to me about the process and wanted to know, what were the decision-making points. Well, I had literally talked to Jerry every day for about a 2 or 3 month period. So, Chris and Jay, I knew exactly where he had seen them. He saw them through adversity. He saw them through, their plus times. And each one of them had definitive attributes, but they were all going to be ready to play in the big leagues at some point in 1985. This thin Venezuelan shortstop from La Guaira had played in the Winter League the previous years for the Tigreones in La Guaira and was a switch hitter and was a really good offensive player, playing at altitude, but had leadership skills and had instinctive skills that separated him from the other guys. Now, guys, I've scouted a ton. To be able to see that with the intricacy that Krause did was an exceptional lesson for me, because look what we have now. We have a guy who's got a World Series title on his hardware. We decided he was our target. We went after the Padres. They were looking for pitching. Lamar Hoyt had a bad year in 1984. He was the Cy Young Award winner in 83. And we just decided, and it was really Roland's call. Again, Dave Dombrowski was the assistant general manager too. So they had a pretty good group of people here, okay? Bill Smith, future general manager of the Minnesota Twins, also in the group.
Wow.
And we decided, let's make Guillen our target. Roland was unbelievable in the process, just never losing traction, and eventually gave up Hoyt for Ozzie. In addition, I think we got Luis Salazar and Tim Lawler in the deal. But the important part of the deal was getting Ozzie. Well, Ozzie's English was very, very suspect. Ozzie came to camp 20 years of age. Luis Salazar, a fellow Venezuelan who had played in Venezuela with him on the Tiburones de La Guaira, was his mentor. And we were so lucky that we got him for that reason. It was so shrewd on Roland's part because, he was like the glue on our team. His nickname was El Caban because he had so much power, but he was a real versatile guy who could play everywhere. But he also had a lot of experience in the big leagues, and he mentored Ozzie in his first year. Well, he came to camp, and in his first spring training game, I think it was Frank Tanana was pitching against us, an absolute just dominant left-handed pitcher for a really long period. And he came up and Ozzie's hitting left-handed against him. And we're all like, what's going on? This is a switch hitter. And Ozzie had decided that week he wasn't going to switch hit anymore. He's going to hit from the left side. So to say it got out in a little rough stop, I went down to the dugout in Payne Park, and Tony's like, Danny, what's going on? And I said, listen, I don't know. And he talked to him, and Ozzie just said he's a lot more comfortable hitting from the left side, which he had hit, obviously, guys, 3/4 of the time. And I'll tell you what, his first half of the year, he made some errors, but none of them were at critical points in the game. They were at like soft times in the game. It's very typical for a young infielder. They just don't hold their focus. It's just like a sophomore or a freshman in high school or college. I mean, look at Boozer in the tournament. He coughs the ball up at half court. You don't do that later in your career.
Yeah.
But Tom Seaver came up to me one day on a road trip, and we were so lucky. Seaver joined our club, and Tommy came up to me and said, Danny, this guy's a big out shortstop. This guy makes all the plays. And he said he makes the plays when they matter, and he never makes an erratic throw or a poor play when the game's on the line. And my favorite part of that year is Seaver won his 300th game in August in Yankee Stadium. And there was a point in the game where Ozzie called timeout and came to the mound. And Seaver didn't like interruptions. He didn't like it when bench caught him. He didn't like it at any point. He goes, what are you going to tell me? And Ozzie said, oh, nothing. My mom and dad are watching the game back in Venezuela. It's on a Sunday baseball broadcast. And I just wanted them to see me on TV talking to you. And he turned around and ran back out to shortstop.
Wow.
And Seaver was laughing on the mound. And he got his 300th win, and Ozzie made a couple big plays. But guys, here's the thing. Ozzie and I kind of grew up in the game together. He was with the White Sox for an extended period. I grew up, I became the assistant GM, eventually director of baseball operations. That relationship has never wavered. It was always strong. And when he became the manager of the White Sox, I said to somebody, you have no idea the instincts this man has for the game. Jeff Torborg said at one point, maybe Ozzie's fourth or fifth year, he said, dang, this guy's going to be a great coach, great manager. His feel for the game is uncanny. And guys, I got to see him play every inning, every out of every game for an extended period. I was not surprised. And when he won the World Series, it was the first step in a career that frankly, I wasn't surprised by. A couple years ago, we caught up at a Sabre convention. I was the president of Sabre, the Sabre board at the time, and Ozzie just held court, as we all know. And the crowd at the Palmer House in Chicago was in awe of the guy. But guys, when that phone call, and I had a really good friend from the White Sox call me and tell me that Ozzie's number was being retired. And I got a little choked up because Roland Heeman's since gone. So is Jerry Krause. And, I realized what went into that. And here the guy gets his number retired. So now with Frank's number being retired, Kananko's number being retired, I was Bainesy forever. It's really fun that guys that you're with from the start of their White Sox career, you're a little bit of a part of an ingredient in their career. Guys, I got to be honest with you. There's no doubt I'm going to be there on August 8th. I mean, none whatsoever, because
Can't wait.
yeah, Kathy and I were talking, and I just said, that's one of those I have to be at, just because I just want to be there to see my friend get the highest honor an organization can give somebody.
Now, before I go on that, I wanted to ask you, because I can't remember the years that you were with those other clubs, but when Ozzie got that gig, I guess in hindsight, what were your expectations of him? I mean, you brought up his IQ as a player, but when he's getting that managerial role, was he above expectations, or like what were your thoughts in that moment, looking at it from outside the organization with a different club, seeing him
Yeah.
take off, and then the career he had as a manager, getting that achievement in Chicago? What went into the outside look of the White Sox during that time that he was a manager?
That's a great question. I had insight. I was a Dodgers general manager at that point, and Kenny Williams was running the club. And I just thought Ozzie was a microwavable manager. He'd be great with a veteran team, a team with expectations of winning, because Ozzie knew how to win. And Ozzie had a competitive streak, as you guys know, that was uncanny. He still has it on the couch with Chuck. I mean, it's unbelievable. This guy wants to win. I thought it was a brilliant move. I thought it was a great hire. I know people, friends of mine. I was at the White Sox for 20 years. So I still have a lot of friends there, and I still root for the team just because those are my friends still. And I grew up in the city. I thought Ozzie would be really good, and I thought they would respond. But I also thought that he had a wick that was going to last as long as the team had competitive personnel. I wasn't sold on the decision-making skill set of the front office, because the first few years after I had left, it wasn't very good. The team sputtered and they weren't very good. And I thought Ozzie needed good players to manage his style. I mean, guys, one thing I've learned in the game is that managers are only as good as the personnel, and only as good as the personnel matches their style and their skill set. He is a starting pitcher oriented guy, and I'm right there with him. Okay. I want the guys to go as deep in the game as they can. Look what we saw in the series in 05. That was incredible. We'll never see that again. I also was part of the acquisition of Burley and some of the other guys on that team. There's probably around 20 guys on that team that won the World Series that I had a part of. So I'm rooting for the team at the same time, but I was not surprised. And I was not surprised that in a run in the postseason that he'd be able to keep that pedal down. That takes a special kind of guy. Think of the great managers, Dusty Baker. I think about Francona, Joe Madden. the guys that really Bochy, that can really ride a team, but ride them while communicating. Now, we all know one thing. Ozzie communicates. Sometimes it's not warm and fuzzy, but he communicated really well. And I remember when he was hired, someone said, "Is the language going to be a barrier?" And I said, "No, his English is fine. He's good. He'll handle the media. He'll be able to communicate with everybody in the clubhouse except someone from Asia." I said, and this guy has been there, done that. I think working under Torborg helped him as a third base coach because he had to be a subordinate and he had to learn how the game is run. Jeff Torborg, as longtime White Sox fans know, was a terrific tactician and a phenomenal communicator. And if you think about who Ozzie played for some real good managers. And I think there's a little blend of all of them. But I'll tell you, Chris, to fully answer your question, no, I was not surprised. And when things weren't as good, I wasn't surprised either because Ozzie's demanding of you trying to win and you doing your job. And I think the guys upstairs didn't give him the same level of players, and hence they weren't a world championship caliber club again.
I just want to say, so I was 13 when the White Sox won the World Series, and the one thing that stuck out to me, I was still a baseball fan, learning the game, learning what needs to be done to win. Looking back at that starting rotation and how accountable they were, like that stuck out to me because how are you getting these guys ready to play every day? And the fact that it was a older roster, it was a veteran roster, but all of the guys in that lineup was accountable. Jermaine Dye, Paul Konerko, Juan Uribe, AJ Przinsky. Remember, we really only had one speed guy in the lineup, and that was Scott Podsednik. And for a team to make use of all of their outs, like literally the White Sox did not waste any outs. They were a very efficient team. They scored a lot of runs with not a lot of speed.
That's right.
Fast forward to the end of the season where we lost that series against Cleveland and everybody hit the panic button. For Ozzie to reset and get the team ready for a Red Sox team that was on paper better than the White Sox, and they came out and kicked them in the teeth in every level of the business. I was like, oh yeah, this is a great manager.
Jay, a lot of longtime scouts did a really great job building that group. Burley was a great draft. He was a draft and follow in the mid 30s. I mean, we knew who he was later that year, but it was a great draft by John Kazanis in the first year of his career. Great makeup guy, as we all learned, but we already knew. And then Garland, which was a steal of a trade, I think in 99 or 98, we got him for Matt Karchner, and Garland's makeup was exceptional. He was gritty. He was tough. Came from a single parent household and just learned how to be his own guy at 20. Well, when half your rotation is really tough and the recommendations from your amateur scouts, that shows that the scouting staff at the time, which were guys that I was there with, they did a fabulous job getting makeup. I mean, Jermaine Dye, oh my gosh. Konerko has the best makeup of anybody I've ever been around except for Ventura. He had just unbelievable makeup. Yeah. And that whole team. And what people forget is that Frank was hurt. So they won that without the greatest offensive player in the franchise's history in the postseason. And that's a remarkable tell because usually you lose a guy of that caliber, you don't rebound. And not only did they rebound, they pitched better than they did all year, and they played really solid fundamental ball in the postseason.
Look, and they destroyed the Red Sox first round. Then they come back against the Angels, to which a team that was the one game that they lost. But going into that series, I know that the Angels brand of baseball, what Mike Scioscia got those guys doing, we have to almost be perfect.
No
because
question.
any mistake that we make, they're built to capitalize on it. And for us to turn the table on them, that whole entire series outside the isolated game, which in fact was a great baseball game. If you go back and rewatch it, just the execution, not a lot of runs scored, but you had to execute in that game. The fact that the White Sox were slumping and to go destroy those two American League powerhouses with just one loss, like you can only do that.
Jay, to be hypercritical, which I've gotten paid to be my entire adult life. Mike Scioscia, I thought, was the best manager in the game at the time. He was brilliant. And his team was built by Bill Stoneman to reflect his strategy style and his type of game. And I think you nailed it. He was an absolute unbelievable manager. I personally thought it was going to be a challenge for Ozzie because he was going up against the best guy in the game. And I agree with you. I didn't think he had any margin for error. And when he went head to head, toe to toe with Mike, who I loved and I knew well, I just thought, wow, this guy is even better than I thought. I knew he'd be good, but I thought to myself, this guy is exceptional. And the two of them, I thought that was one of the best manager duels I've seen in a long, long time. I thought Cora against Dave Roberts was good. There were others like Dusty Baker versus Scioscia, but I think that was the series that I felt that my friend had evolved into one of the best managers in baseball.
1,000%.
All right. I'm going to transition us only because we've got 4 questions for you. And it looks like in the chat, we got one more fan question for you as well. And I know I sent them to you ahead of time. And just for everyone watching, this first one might be the hardest to truly answer on your side of it, only because Jay and I are going at this every week during the season.
Oh, I know where this is going.
You from the outside, I know you catch it every now and then. So I'm gonna rephrase this. But essentially, we're gonna get to, I don't want to say the strengths and weaknesses of Getz, but going forward, how can we see a better process as a GM going forward than what we did of the previous one? Because like you mentioned, and I wanted to echo this too, when you mentioned you only can do so much as from the manager side as what the front office has to offer you as resources, which we kind of seen with when Tony took over. Essentially, it was an overrated roster and he got the most out of it. And we saw the after effects of that. And from my perspective of this, I sent you a link when I was a guest of the 108 show a month ago, and I gave them my objections, which early on, we saw the main asset to start this rebuild of the direction they went down was Dylan Cease. And I know I was really adamant when that deal went down. I was really pissed off, and I had a 45-minute show with OJ about it. And I remember in the text with you, you had some different thoughts of essentially he probably waited too long to deal that asset. And if he did stick with his guts, he probably would have had better value in that deal with what rumored at the time was the Rangers. And that probably set you back another year or two of your rebuild in doing so. So I'm not saying you're saying, but I'm saying this is I felt that was one huge mistake to begin the rebuild. And then to take that up, even in that first draft, going with, I felt like they went with comfort and going a pitcher with Hagen Smith when there were clear position players on the board of higher ceilings to take, like a Connor Griffin that just got extended by the Pirates, like JJ Weatherholt, who probably will get an extension here soon from the Cardinals. Again, if you're trying to build the middle of your diamond going forward in your core, you want to add one of those two profiles to start that with and build around. But he went with a pitcher, which is what they're comfortable in developing at the time. Again, I felt that was also the second biggest mistake. And again, probably put them back a little bit, a year or so on the rebuild as well. However, it does look like he did learn from those mistakes with that second huge asset coming off the board with Crochet, getting Kyle Teal, which is a catcher in the middle of your diamond, and then a two-way player with a high profile in Brand Montgomery, who looks like will debut this season. So I felt like, again, really young GM learning his ways, dealing with other GMs in this league, but it looks like he has at least learned from that mistake as far as the trade side of things. And then on the development, as far as drafts goes, from that mistake we talked about prior, those back-to-back second-year draft picks with Caleb Bonham, Jaden Fauske, we haven't seen this organization make those high school profile moves in that second round to do it back-in-back years. I felt like those were probably one of the best choices from back-to-back drafts in those second round, and those combinations that they went with at those draft selections. So I felt like those were mistakes that he learned from, and probably are aspects of this rebuild that I feel better about with this front office than the last one. So at the end of the day, my question to you is, again, you've seen some of the objections I have. How do you feel he could, as a young GM, move forward in developing this next core to have success like we haven't seen prior?
That's a fabulous question, Chris. And I just think general managers get way too much credit for success and get a little bit too much credit or negative for a lack of success. Let's just be transparent here. Chris struggled as a player development director. I mean, I have no problem saying that. They did not develop players, and their scouting staff did not supply their team with the level of players that I think they would have liked to have had. And I think when he got the job, he had very limited major league experience, which is, I mean, it's a really big deal when you're in the room making the final decision. You got to have a feel for what it looks like. You have to have relationships with people. That's how you make trades. They're relationships. And then I think what they did, and let's just take a step back. Whenever you rebuild, and they did it twice, what you have are two components. You have to have a general manager outline a game plan and stick to it. Think about Davidson with the Blackhawks. He has literally stuck to his plan. Okay, look where they're headed. The last month of the season, yes, they didn't win as many games, but now you can see it. You can see who the Blackhawks will be the next 5 years because he didn't veer from his game plan. I never heard a game plan articulated externally from the White Sox as to how they're going to do it. Maybe it was his inexperience. Maybe they didn't want to share it, but they sputtered. And I think they misfired. And when you misfire, the second component comes, and that's the scouts and the player development people getting players who weren't your first pick to become contributors, trade possibilities, guys who can help your nucleus improve. At first, they did not have that. There were no impact players from his player development group that suddenly flashed to the big leagues. I always call them surprises. That did not happen. So I think it was very suspect, and I think it still is, and I think we have a right to be suspect until the rebuild really comes to fruition. I think it's very fair to be suspect because rebuilds either succeed or they fail because the middle ground is the worst case scenario. If you bottom out and don't win, you just threw away 3 to 5 years of your fan base, of your relevance. Now, Chris, I don't watch them every day because they are somewhat irrelevant for me. They're not a contending team.
Gasp.
What's that?
No, I said gas.
I know, this just in. And for me, I would much rather watch one of the better clubs. I mean, I do a lot of media and I do a lot of consulting, and the better teams, the more relevant games are the ones that people focus on. I can't really comment on his ability yet fully because I just don't watch every game and I don't see the progression, but I do know what they have down below. And they have an abundance of middle infield prospects, which is awesome. Okay, that those guys, a shortstop can always play another position. It's when you're trying to find a shortstop, you've got to go trade for Ozzie Guillen like we did. And we traded a Cy Young Award winner. He's not going to have to do that, but he also doesn't have that guy. And Chris, to step back one more time, I don't think the Cease return was real good, and I thought there was a delay there. I thought the Crochet deal was a really good trade. And it was a trade you could see the strategy and you could see where they had evolved to as an organization. Now, here's the thing. Crochet is an outstanding big league pitcher. Those other guys have to deliver or else it's not a good deal. So before we start anointing people, let's let them get to the big leagues and let's see who they are after a couple years. One thing, Jay and Chris, I do not evaluate deals until the young kids have come up and played a little bit. Because until they come up and show they can handle the pressure, they can handle the big league scene, they can be a productive guy and not a prospect anymore, they really aren't a relevant member of the organization. But when they do, that's a really good deal. I think they have an opportunity here to have a much better trade than they did for Cease.
And this next question, Dan, actually kind of follows through.
Chris, can I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I love Murakami. I've seen him play since he was a rookie in Japan. I've seen Murakami play his entire professional career. And when he came over, I told people, hey, this guy's going to hit 30 plus bombs. This guy's going to be an impact guy from day one. This is a hell of a signing by the White Sox. And I give them credit for going after him because I call these guys microwavable players. He steps right in. Guys, this is a really good baseball player, okay, who's got feel for the strike zone, and you can have him as a core player. That is a direction the White Sox weren't taking for a number of years. To get him on a really good deal, I thought that was a really great personnel move. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You actually piqued my interest, because I was going a little bit to gray once you said the White Sox weren't that relevant. I almost had a mini heart attack, but now the Murakami brought me back to life.
Yeah.
And
Wait, watch his bats. He's got juice in his bat.
Yeah.
This second question is kind of a double-edged sword question. With first half of this question is, again, with these early arbitration extensions that you're seeing, especially at the beginning of this season, do you think Ishbia is going to spend money sooner than later? And essentially, again, when we were talking about this international class coming into this current one that we're seeing now, these guys at first you're hearing the rumors of $100+ million deals. As we've seen, Murakami only got a 2-year, $34 million deal. So I'm going to post some of the recent updates on his first 75 at bats, but essentially, do you think, I know this is early on, we're just approaching those first 35 or 75 at bats of Murakami, but do you think we see him here extended as part of one of those extensions, or do we not even see him past the deadline because of that value he could be traded for to continue building on this core? And before you mention that, I'll give you some of his comparisons on the screen here. This was last night. This is before he hit his home run today to make it 8 homers. But that's a good comparison from the group of Japanese players that we have here on the screen. Again, we already knew that he had the contact rate flaws with the strikeout percentage being high. However, you do see the power there. The walk rate is at 20% right now, which is extraordinary. And again, we'll see the three out, or the three essentially categories of walk K and with his OPS with that power. Again, Dan, I want you to take it as you will how you answer that.
Well, Chris, if you could go back to that last slide, take a look at the guys he's in there with. Muncy. Muncy's a really good offensive player. Deep count guy. Okay. Schwarber, one of the best left-handed hitters in the game. Kurtz is an elite superstar who is going to be one of the best players in the game. Murakami's right there. This is no illusion. His walk rate will always be high. It always has been. He's got great feel for the zone. Okamoto has a little better feel for the strike zone than him, but Murakami's power and hitting from the left side has always made him a high walk guy. He's going to punch out. All the stuff they say about velocity, he's not a big problem velocity guy. You don't see too many hitters who are great velocity guys. When you're 97, 98, 99, there's not a lot of really big batting averages. His problem is contact upstairs in the zone with velocity. Well, there's a pretty long line in there, okay? So, Chris, to really answer your question, I think some of the guys who have been receiving multi-year deals are young kids that are aged 19 to 23, debuting in the big leagues. There's some question marks about their ability to be that guy. And guys, this is the biggest risk a team makes. You know your player's makeup, and the makeup's more important than the skill because you got to be able to handle the money and handle being that guy. I mean, look at Roman Anthony. You know, he called out his teammates 10 games into the season. This is not okay. Well, most young players wouldn't say that, okay? When you've got a guy that you're betting on and he's 19 to 22, 23 years old, that's a real high risk situation. Murakami is an established player. Anyone who doesn't think the big leagues in Japan isn't the big leagues hasn't seen them play. I've seen them play a ton in person. This is my wheelhouse, okay? I think there's 42 big league teams, not 30. And those 12 teams over there play to a full house every night, high expectations. Murakami played in the capital of the country. It was imperative that he played well, and he did. So the pressure part, I think he has less risk than a Griffin or others. But again, guys, this is a philosophical choice by management. Are you going to want to put a guy in a long-term deal as a young player or as a young veteran player like in Murakami, or are you going to play it out a little bit? If the guy's good, the numbers just go up. If the guy's bad, you save money. This is a matter of only the White Sox know who he is every day right now. I probably feel like I know him as well as they do right now, but by the end of the year, they'll know him better than me. I scouted the hell out of this guy. I'm not surprised by this whatsoever. I no doubt about this guy's ability to perform. But Chris, I think he's different than some of their other prospects because those kids, you know, in some cases can't even buy a beer at the bar yet. And you've got to know who the kid is when you put money in their back pocket, because when you bump up their bank account, some guys change. Some guys don't. And the guys that don't, those are the best bets.
I just want to say in that three outcome graphic, outside of Muncy, probably Kerry Bonds and Matt Wallner, everybody else on that list has been invested into by their team. Kurtz, James Wood, you name it. And Gonzo knows how to piss me off when he talks about every time Murakami hits a ball over 112 miles per hour with a launch angle of around 30 degrees, I can't wait for the haul that we're going to get for him. Do you see that, Gonzo? You're trying to trade that. You're trying to project the value on the market for that.
Well, think about his age, though. I mean, he's not a young kid anymore. So the term on his contract will be a big deal. But now with the DH, he can play. He's a below average defender for me. He's never been a superior defender. But I think what we have here, and Jay, you touched on it a little bit, but let's go one step further. Almost all those guys are left-handed bats.
Yes.
And left-handed bats perform when they're high on base guys. They perform longer and more consistently because 3/4 of the time the ball's coming into them. As a result, the breaking ball is not as big an issue. For a right-handed batter, it can be a question mark. It takes some of the risk away, him being an experienced left-handed bat. I mean, if they turned around and signed him, most people in the game that know Murakami and know the NPB game would not be surprised. The problem is, as a corner guy who's a questionable defender, his market was not where it was for other players who were more middle of the diamond centric.
Yeah, and Gonzo, I just want to say this. I didn't want to bring zoology into this, but looking at all of those guys who are left-handed hitters, I look at them like Nile crocodiles or the green anaconda in Brazil, to where they're prolific hunters, but they do have their limitations, such as speed, agility, in Murakami's case, defense, just like those other guys. I feel like, but the longevity, because reptiles and snakes grow their entire life, I feel like Murakami, his species of player, just like Kyle Schwarber, they can maintain their skill set for longer than a more athletic type of player. So I feel like the White Sox will be fools not invested in Murakami, because you don't have to pay him shortstop money, but you can expect a decade of your investment.
And just to echo what he's also saying here, I'm curious, are we going to see that $100+ million money from Ishbia going towards Murakami, or when they draft Rock Chalowski in July, let's just say in the off season when they do that extension? What's your thoughts on this? Do you think one of the two might get it?
You don't know until you're in that seat, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not evading here. Until you're in that seat and you are leading the organization on and off the field, even with the brilliant moves they're doing down in the South Loop, I mean, that could be extraordinary. That could be a remarkable place for a baseball game.
We'll get to that in a second. Yeah.
And I really think that that's part of your game plan. When that ballpark is ready, who do you want to be? But also, who do you want to be for the next 3 to 5 years? I've heard wonderful things about this man. I know he's a northern Chicago suburb guy. He and his brother have done great things with the Suns, but you don't really know until you're that guy. And with the new labor agreement pending, who knows who he is? He doesn't know who he is right now. He thinks he knows who he is. And people who know him have a general idea. But I'm going to tell you guys, until you're in that chair, you really don't know who you are. For all you fantasy people, I mean, I'm just going to be serious right here. Oh, I'll trade this guy, I'll trade that guy. Well, when you're in the chair in your fantasy team, it changes. Just like it changes in the big leagues. You realize, hey, if I say yes or no, this thing either gets done or it doesn't. And I think he's going to have a learning curve too. And you're going to have to find out whether he and Getz are a good match and whether or not their philosophical beliefs mesh. And that, guys, is part of the transition.
Now, but to wrap this up, going back to this chart, Dan, would you feel comfortable giving him that new money with, the concern of the K percentage and the contact rates? Where are you at with his flaws right now in the first 75 at bats? Like, would you feel comfortable warranting that new money, with considering that that's a part of the profile that you haven't gotten here in Chicago, in quite a bit of time?
I think you need to be patient with Pacific Rim players their first 3 to 5 months in the big leagues. With a lot of experience, I'm saying that. You have to see how they handle adversity, how they handle the travel, the schedule, the defense, the practice, which is entirely different than what they've done over in Japan. The repeatability of the skills. I mean, they play 5 days a week over there. In a lot of weeks, we play 7. And subsequently, his ability to handle the first half of the season would be key for me. Chris, never been real gun shy. I personally, because you have him on a 2-year deal, I believe.
Yeah.
What I would do is I'm not saying what the White Sox should do. What I would do is I'd want to see how he handles adversity. How does he handle the second time through the league? I mean, scouts, advanced guys, video guys are relentless trying to get hitters out. That's why the major league batting average is 243, 244. We've learned how to get people out. That's going to be part of his learning curve. And he's going to have to learn how to handle 50 plate appearances a week. Because, 30 to 50 plate appearances is more than he's been getting, and you want to see how a guy handles it. The travel guys, entirely different in North America than it is in NPB. A lot of games are played in NPB where the guys take the train back to Tokyo and they sleep in their own place that night and then play somewhere else the next day. That's just because a lot of the games are played within Tokyo. As a result, you want to see how he handles it. For me, I like the guy a lot. I'd never overpay for him. I think he's an acquired taste. The strikeout rate, Chris, to your question, it's always going to be there. This is who he is. This is who he was his first year of NPB. That's who he is. His strike zone discipline is what it is. He's exactly what I thought he was going to be. It's just, how do you value that skill set? That skill set bat has already erupted, 7 times, 8 times?
8.
Those are bombs, too. He doesn't hit the first row. This guy jacks. I mean, it's deep. That's not going to change. You got to be able to put up with the punch outs, but you also get deep counts. And I think in that is value. He's very Schwarberish. He's very Max Muncy-ish.
I just want to say this to touch on your point. I know, Gonzo, you want to transition, but Tetsuya Ime has had trouble adjusting to the United States brand of baseball in the way of life. He's publicly came out and said it, and you could tell on the mound. Like his last start, 2/3 of an inning, 5 earned run, almost 1 million pitches without getting out of a single frame. That's mental. That's prep. That's something that he's kind of insecure about, and he's taken his day-to-day life adjustments back to the mound with him. And right now, he's got to restart his entire season to try to get a bearing for that. I think it was a great point that you made, Dan, because a guy that's Murakami's age, 26, 27 years old, he's going to have that same North American adjustment too.
Yeah, and I love Imai. I think he's going to be a really good big league pitcher. Pitchers tend to struggle in the early stages for a variety of reasons. Their bullpens are different days than they were back in Japan. The rotation is set up differently. The ball's different. The strike zone's different. They don't know the hitters. Think about this, guys. A young kid plays in the minor leagues, maybe plays college baseball. They know the American players. Okay, they've grown up watching them. They know who they are. Japanese guys have been trying to get Japanese guys out, and Imai has done it really well. He's got filthy stuff. Most starting pitchers come over and scuffle the first half of their year. And Jay, for the reasons you said, but there's nothing wrong with the mental side. If the three of us tomorrow were asked to go run a Japanese team, we would sputter too, because we don't have the background. He's standing on the mound trying to get the 3-hole hitter out. He's never faced a guy in his life. It's just like in high school, that kid who's a sophomore never looks the same as a junior and a senior, because now he knows the guy and he knows what he did. I wouldn't worry about the pitching, because that takes time. The bats are more impactful early. And that was a great question.
Just put the bow tie on it. They've got, I think, like $4 million of payroll in 28. You said he is what he is. If you're going to give him that new money, even with those falls as a profile, you know what you have to build around him and that roster to get to where you need to be. So you can take a hit on those flaws, but you got to put what you're looking for into that roster to build around him. Then essentially, you're going to have a guy like Rocket drafted, and you got to start putting together some protection around a franchise type player for your, or a potential franchise type player in your organization. So I mean, I'm at that position. I could probably go either way with him, but I'm glad on the insight that you're giving us on that adversity side of it that I wasn't really thinking of. This third question for you, knowing the fact that Getz has two roles right now, vice president, general manager. For a young executive in his career, that's a tough task to have both of those roles in one. With a new owner coming in Ishbia, do you think he cleans house when he takes over, or do you think he has some involvement currently in the decision making and at least is signing off on the current baseball ops structure? What's your thoughts on
That's a
this whole
terrific question.
ordeal?
Having been the recipient of a house cleaning with a new owner in Los Angeles, I mean, we went out, we had a great year. New owner came in and fired 192 people from a really quality franchise in Los Angeles. And a bunch of us lost their jobs, and the team was horrible. Okay. I mean, horrible. Okay. Every owner has the right to rearrange his kitchen just like we do. I mean, I love to cook. If you come over to my house, don't be messing where stuff is on the stove. Don't be messing with the preparation. He has a way that he thinks he has currently. It's a matter of, does he mesh? Do they mesh personality wise? I'm sure there's probably been interaction. If there's not, there will be. But this is where, Chris, your staff has to deliver. He has to start looking like they're making progress. Because just consider this. Until he wears the top title as the owner, he is a minority owner. And it's Jerry's club. Okay? And listen, Jerry and I have known each other for 45 years. I'm so thankful he took a chance on me when I was a 20-year-old junior in college, okay? And we stay in touch. I'm coming back for the reunion of the 83 club. I can't wait. It's going to be a blast, okay? But Jerry and Ishbia are going to have different ways of doing things. What that looks like would be pure speculation by anybody, because nobody really knows, except the people in that inner sanctum. They're always different. Remember, Jerry bought the team for $19 million. He's not paying down debt. The new guy will be from day one. He's probably going to want a quicker return, but at the same time, keep in mind, those are not his players within the personnel group of the White Sox. Those are under a previous ownership. He may want a different look. He may have a different style. He may have a little different runway. He might want to get out and win some games early. And guys, that's one of the beautiful things of changes. I mean, look at the Padres. Padres have been one of the best teams in baseball. My protege, AJ Preller, is running things there. Hey, AJ's done a great job for 10 years. He might not be a good fit for the new owner of the Padres, but they get to make that call. I always say they've got the keys of the car. You get to do what you want to do. Chris is really, his goal has got to be make an absolute, unmistakable plea that, hey, look where we are. this is really good. That's why 2026 is real big for the future of the franchise.
It's got me thinking now what we can
Chris, you just
potentially
don't
see.
know. You just don't know. I mean, the new owner of the Dodgers came in, and I thought after the first meeting, oh, there's no chance. I don't fit. We have a completely different way. He wanted me to lop off a bunch of bodies. He wanted me to cut payroll. That's not why I took the Dodger job.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I could see it was oil and water. It wasn't going to work. Might not be the case. I'd say the majority of the time, there's new management fairly soon after an ownership change, but every case is its own individual situation.
And that's the thing, because that's where I'm struggling out right now, because I feel Chris Getz is going to be here in some capacity. I just don't know if that's going to be on the baseball operations side as GM or vice president, because in my opinion, I feel like he's done a better job on the vice president side of it than the baseball ops, because I told, and he said this himself when he took it over, was Jerry gave him a list of things to change, like restructuring the front office and, doing the ops side abroad. And I felt like he did a great job of doubling the front office capacity and restructuring the Pacific and the Caribbean with, the institutions they put out there. I thought he did an excellent job with that. But, I went over the objections on the baseball ops side of it.
Mhm.
However, my counter to myself is, yeah, but he actually built this core going forward right now. So he has the outline going forward for someone else to come in to tear that apart. I don't see that happening either. So I'm kind of caught in a conflict because, like I said, I think he's done better on the executive side than the ops side of it.
Yeah. Chris, one of the hardest things, a lot of organizations today have a president of baseball operations and a general manager.
Mhm.
And the president of baseball operations is kind of the rudder. He or she decide this is what we look like. This is our culture. This is our stress points. These are our objectives. This is our agenda. The general manager then is set to carry out the day-to-day operations of the team. Player development, scouting, from an international, professional, and domestic side, they all come through the general manager. The White Sox don't have that right now. They've got a singular head. And I think, people have asked me, what would you like to do if you had a chance? Well, candidly, I'd love to take an expansion team from day one, because then you create the culture, you create the staff, you create the blueprint. Chris has that right now. You just alluded to it. They've got a very limited payroll commitment for the future. That never happens. He's got his own staff now in place. He started to decipher what he wants to do. Leading an organization on the baseball side is not who's going to pitch the eighth inning. That's the manager's call. It's up to you to give the manager personnel that he can manage accordingly that matches his style. Venable has a style. He's got to give him players that suit that style. But the new ownership group may determine there's another direction they want to go. And when they do, is he a fit or not? Nobody knows. And I think speculating it is really unfair to everybody involved because they don't even know themselves.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I want them to be relevant. I want them to be good. And I want them to because that's my hometown. That's the team that I invested 20 years with. I don't like them being bad. I like when they're good. And I don't have a lot of fingerprints there anymore. But I do have enough friends there. And I also have a ton of White Sox friends that are buddies of mine and friends of mine that root for that team. Well, I don't want them to suck. I want them to be good. So I personally, I people say, do you still root for them? Oh, hell yeah, I root for them.
Jay and I are right there with you. Like, we try not to be negative at all. Like, we try to be critical, but give that criticism that's warranted. So I'm
Yeah.
right there with you. I mean, we've seen the last 3 years of 100+ loss seasons. I wasn't critical nearly enough negatively of Tony because I understood with what he was dealing with. But ultimately, I want to get back to that brand of baseball that we're competitive, for sustainable success, and that's hard to build.
Chris, this is the big leagues. This is
Yeah,
the damn big leagues. This is not, this is not D2, D3, D1. This is not double A baseball. This is the most relevant professional baseball league in the world. Our job is to perform at a high level and put quality entertainment, who, by the way, also bring fans to the ballpark because they want to see a quality product. You can't have your objective being a World Series championship every year. That does not occur. It has because the Dodgers blueprint was extraordinary. Okay. But guys, look what they've done. They've drafted great. They've developed great. They've traded great. Everybody points to their payroll. Hey, you want to point to payroll? Point to the worst team in the National League. They've got a bigger payroll than the Dodgers. The Mets are horrible. So for me, I think what they've got is a relevancy that is mistimed because the Cubs are good. And the Cubs are going to be good for a few more years, at least, while the White Sox are completely off the map. And Chris, as you said, when you're throwing triple-digit losses out there, you don't matter to a lot of people. Look at the Rockies. They don't matter to a lot of people. And the reason is they made their own problems. And when you do, Chris, you either got to figure it out and fix it, or somebody else comes in to fix it for the next person.
yep. Dan, last question of ours before we get to the fan question in the chat. Being a Chicago native that you brought up, what is your thoughts to Ishbia looking into the South Loop for the stadium project? And I'm going to throw a little twist in there too. Let's just say the Bears bounce out of the Indiana offer in the region over there. And let's just say Bears go to Arlington. If the South Loop fails, do you see maybe potentially Justin going to the Indiana governor and saying, hey, I'll jump in on that offer. We'll build it right down the road here. I want to hear your thoughts as a Chicago native.
Yeah, Chicago native, Lane Tech High School, DePaul University, 20 years at the White Sox. You kind of can't be more Chicago than I am. Okay, I mean it's there. I used to take Canal Street as my shortcut to the ballpark, coming into work almost every day. I lived in Lincoln Park my last 10 years or so, and I would just scoot over to Canal and take Canal down to the ballpark. I know every inch of that area. And as a Chicagoan, I think it is a brilliant maneuver, absolutely brilliant to build there if they can get it done. I think it's stunning how much the South Loop has become the epicenter of a lot of Chicago. It is stunning to me because 25 years ago, no, it was not the case. But now with some vision and with the build in the South Loop, I think it's brilliant. It's become a neighborhood. I think the plans, I mean, guys, listen, I've read everything because that's my town. I care. And I think it's really great for the franchise and its vibrancy to do something great. If it fails, they're going to have to go somewhere else. But you know what? If you're letting stuff out and you're public about it, you probably have a vibe that you think you can get it done. And you want one of your first moves as a new owner to hit it right. Guys, let's be honest. That would be a really, really cool place for a baseball game. The configuration, the placement looking into the loop, that's extraordinary. I mean, that's Pittsburgh, that's Cincinnati, that's Cleveland. Those are, Baltimore. Those are ballparks that work. I look at Seattle. I look at San Diego, Minneapolis. I was just there last week. That's what today's fan wants. but also the vibrancy of the city. As a DePaul guy, I mean, I take a look at their arena. When the Blue Demons start winning again, you're going to have a tough time getting tickets for DePaul games just because of the proximity to business and to a huge population base. I hope it works. And I would love to see it because the early plans we saw this week, I don't know about you, I was pretty geeked out. I was pretty excited. It looked like it was pretty cool.
I was just gonna say, Gonzo, Asia lives up north, right off of Broadway, and we usually take the train into downtown into 35th. I literally daydream about having a 4 o'clock shopping spree with the love of my life. And right when she thinks we're going home, I show her these White Sox tickets in the South Loop. She loves eating at the ballpark. She loves going to the rate and stuff in her face. I'm pretty sure if I add a little bit of retail therapy before she gorges and I sit here and may or may not complain about my baseball team in the South Loop, that's the only thing I want. I don't want Indiana Sox. Give me my ballpark right next to the river, just like PNC, right in the heart of downtown, like Comerica. We have a golden opportunity to give our Southside fans a chance to enjoy a beautiful part of the city that Chicago has invested in. Like you said, Dan, over the years, we've transformed it from the business bureau to now it's someplace that you can have a little bit of leisure time. Hopefully not Jordan leisure time.
Yeah, I agree.
Last question from the chat is from our guest last week with Justin, one of our fans of the show. He states, as someone that wants to work for the White Sox, either in the front office or broadcast booth, what are the nights like during the GM and winter meetings in the hotel? Give us your best descriptive of what that's like. Great question, Justin.
First of all, Justin, thanks for listening and thanks for the question. I will just tell you that I've been so lucky to work in the sport my whole adult life. I never envisioned it. And now I look back and I'm not done. I mean, I'm still completely relevant. I can't believe how much fun I've had and how rewarding it has been, but also how much fun it is. I mean, look at the three of us on a Sunday night are sitting around at 9 o'clock talking baseball.
Yes.
That, most professions don't do that. Okay. A buddy of mine today said, listen, I dread going to work on Monday. And I said, nah, I never dreaded going to work. This is not it. I think to answer Justin's question, the general managers meetings are fact-finding strategy. You're kicking tires. You're trying to find out what your 29 competitors are trying to do, whether or not there's a market for some of your big number guys that you're trying to get rid of, who they like, who they don't like. Talk to the agents. It's pure fact finding. That's all it is. Very few trades are made there, but you start to find out what other teams are doing and what you might have a possibility to do. The winter meetings are the most physically and mentally punishing things in baseball. Jay, Chris, I slept one night in the bathtub of our suite. I rolled up a bunch of towels, put my head down at 5:30 in the morning, woke up at 7, and I just went, what am I doing? This is crazy, okay? The winter meetings are, there is no deadline. There was when I started. That's how old I am. There's no deadline, but there is, I would say, self-imposed pressure to do something because you're also at the beginning of the free agent period, and there's only so many slots that teams can fill. So there is a sense of urgency and you feel it. You have 2 media sessions every day. Everybody's in the same hotel. It's ridiculous. Jerry Reinsdorf and I had a great time at the winter meetings. We sat around the hotel on a balcony and we were having a good laugh with the Perfect Game executive vice president about how the winter meetings are so consuming for the people involved. Literally, guys, and to really fully answer the question, Justin, when you get on that airplane to go home, you're done. You have no clue. You've been sleeping 2 to 4 hours for 4 or 5 days. You are so sick of being on. And for some people, your bandwidth is basically done. You're like, I don't have anything left. I think the best part of the year is the month and a half after the season's over, where you get to pick everybody's brain, digest your club. This is where your interns, your junior staff really contribute to the well-being of the organization. You lay out a game plan and you try to execute it. Justin, if you get in the game, you'll love it. If I tell our sports management worldwide students all the time, you have no idea how great it is until you're in it. Now, you guys are in the game. And sure, you're not with one of the 30 clubs, but you're in the game. And it's consuming. It's hard. But it should be hard. It's the biggest damn league in the world. You should be having fun, working hard, and you should demanding of yourself. Looking back, I just had I had a real high bar for myself. And I'm glad I did. My mom and dad instilled that in me. And as a result, I just had expectations that most people in the game have of just being really darn good.
Jay, I'm going to be honest here, man. This conversation is probably one of the conversations, not only I've been looking forward to for the past week, but whenever we have Dan on, he completely blows my mind. And we haven't had him on, I know, for over a year now, but I can't wait until we have you on again, Dan. I can't even wait to, when we end this, go back and re-listen to it and catch the things that I just might have just overlooked, because there's always something when it comes to Dan that blows us away. But Dan, thank you so much. We took an hour of your time already. You're more than welcome to come back and join us again, because when it comes to talking baseball, it's so easy with you. So thank you so much for coming on and giving us your time. We appreciate that.
One of my favorite shows of the year by far.
Well, thank you, Chris and Jay. And when you told me that part of the content was going to be about Oswaldo Guillen, it was a no-brainer for me. I mean, Kathy and I had plans, and I just said, hey, come on, if they're going to do it at 8:00, we can do everything we wanted to do beforehand. You know how much I love Ozzie, and she knows we're coming in for the retirement. So I just said, come on, we got to talk to these guys, and they're good guys. So thanks to you guys for doing such a good job. I do sneak a peek at you guys, so I do know how good you guys are. And I just think for White Sox fans, just enjoy the hell out of the reunion in June and enjoy the Ozzie retirement, because those are unmistakably great periods in the club's history, and that's what we live for as fans. If you don't live for the good moments, then why the hell are we doing this, right? I mean, you gotta have. Roland Heeman told me something the first game of the playoffs in 1983. Guys, I was a train wreck. I was so nervous. Okay, absolutely train wreck. 22 years old. And he came up to me, puts his arm around me by the batting cage. And he goes, hey, this is why we played all year. This is all the work November, December, January, February. This is what we've been striving for. Enjoy the hell out of the good times. Well, I needed that. And Charlie Lau's right next to me. And Charlie Lau's the greatest hitting instructor I've ever been with. And Charlie and I were so close. And Charlie goes, Danny, I never got to taste this until I was a coach. I had no idea what this is like. So this might not happen again for a while. Enjoy it. For Sox fans, here's my bit of advice. We all don't appreciate the great times as much as we should. We get skeptical, we get picky. Man, get on that back of that truck and enjoy the hell out of it. Because it's just like those nice days in early June. Mid-December, that day does not exist. Enjoy the good ones, get your stuff to do, have fun. Because when we all, in our city, it's such a hard city at times in the wintertime. Enjoy the hell out of baseball in good weather, because candidly, that's what we live for. We live for the fun. I know people hate the Cubs and they hate various teams. Don't forget to love your team, because that's what brings you joy 6 months out of the year. Love the hell out of those guys. Thanks again for having me as a guest, guys.
Two things, Dan. One, Jay and I will be there August 8th. And I know me personally, I need to be there not only to watch Ozzie, but I need to shake your hand in person for,
Man,
giving us your time for two shows to do it. I need to do it, and I can't wait to meet you in person. The second thing, we got to have you later in the season because there's something you said earlier about the Cubs being relevant for a couple more years. I wanted to counter it, but I want to do so later in the season. And then also, we got to talk Blackhawks with you because you mentioned them twice already. And when you brought up Davidson talk, I ugh, I agree with you. At the same time, though, I feel like he's at that time where he needs to put in that money now to surround Bedard with some of the pieces that they brought up because it's time. And I know they talked about playoffs for expectations for next year.
Yep.
But the time is now, right? Because Bedard's about to get the extension, so we got to see it.
Chris, I never miss a Blackhawk game. I watch every single game. I just love hockey, and I love the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
I think the Blackhawks are where the White Sox will be in 27, because I think 27, we're all going to have expectations on the South side that they have to be more competitive and they've got to be a better team. I just think for so many different reasons, the Blackhawks in 26, 27 have to stop being out of the postseason. They have to surround Bedard and surround Nazar, and guys like Oliver, have to become dudes. And the kids who came up at the end, hey, they're terrific, but they're 19 and 20 years old. So I really believe, Chris, and I appreciate that, what you said. The Blackhawks for me are a year ahead of the White Sox. And I think next year at this time, if they're not playing the Stanley Cup, I'm going to be really disappointed. But if they're in, then I have a tangible piece to go, okay, here we go. This is the beginning of a really great era in Blackhawk history. They've done a good job, but I think Davison has the pressure that whoever's the GM next year will have with the White Sox. It's time. Let's go.
Absolutely. Jay, you got anything else?
Yeah, I was completely fanned out this whole show, Dan. Appreciate you. Last time, if you guys don't know, last time me and Dan chatted up about Eric Gagne and some of his old Dodgers stories for quite a bit of time. So love talking ball with you. August 8th, it will be a party meeting you in the flesh. So thanks again for stopping by tonight.
Awesome. And you know why he wore 13, don't you?
Why?
Because Chico Carrasquel wore number 13. And he was from the same town as Ozzie. So when we were assigning numbers that year, knowing the history of the team and knowing the history of the game, I'm a little bit of a history savant. When I was assigning numbers, I decided to give him Carrasquel's number. Chico had been around the ballpark. He did some Spanish radio for us. He's an incredibly good man. Oh my God. Chico Carrasquel really was part of the White Sox getting into Latin America and doing a great job in the 50s. Okay. So I thought, I'm going to give him his number. And as a result, there'll be a Venezuelan legacy. Well, guys, Chico's since passed. When that number goes up, that's Chico's number too. And that's how I look at it. I look at it as the two great Venezuelan shortstops in White Sox history were the same number, and here we go.
Oh my God, I might have to cry.
Concepcion wore 13, and Concepcion was Ozzie's favorite player. So Dave Concepcion was his boy. I mean, he loved him. When I saw him the first time he met him, and he was out of control. Okay. So for him to wear Concepcion's number was a bigger deal of anything because that's the player he modeled himself after.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. And I'll see you in August. I'll probably see you when the 83 reunion day goes on at Comiskey. Yeah, I call it Comiskey Park. It's Comiskey Park for me.
What day is the 83 reunion?
It's sometime in June or July. I don't have the date right in front of me, but there'll be a reunion there, and I'm sure they'll publicize it.
Awesome, Dan. We can't wait to see you when we meet together in person in August. And we will definitely have to have you on again later in the
Awesome.
season as well.
I look forward to it. Thanks a bunch, guys. Have a
Thank
great
you.
season. Enjoy it. Thanks for what you do for the fans.
Thanks, Dan.
Appreciate having you, Dan. Wow. Jay, that was just remarkable. I'm tearing up already from. I only told him 40 minutes, and we're already almost approaching an hour and a half.
Yeah, literally.
Time flies when you're having an absolute remarkable conversation on the game of baseball. Jay, are you ready to follow up with 90 minutes of talk following Dan? Or
I mean, at the end of the day, Gonzo, like I just told you 2 minutes ago, I was fanned out. I was literally glued to every word the man was speaking because you said he's easy to talk baseball with, and that's absolutely the correct term for it because all of the knowledge, all of the experience, he gives our listeners a good idea of what it's like in the day-to-day operations for a GM, for executive, some of the people that make the decisions that are behind the scenes. And it's just so good to and refreshing to hear it from his point of view. Love having him on. That was a really good get by you. I might have to give you one of them SpongeBob SquarePants gold stars for the guests today. All of our guests have been great, but today had me fanned out and a little bit giddy.
yeah, I mean, I totally like bringing Dan on. Like, I know how much, how impactful the conversation about Ozzie was going to be, but now I'm starting to think about being in his shoes come August 8th when he's standing up there in that suite watching, or he's probably not going to be up in the suite. He'll probably be on the field during the actual ceremony part of it, I would imagine. But being in that moment, watching, Ozzie and the grandchildren when they do go through that ceremony, I can only imagine the thoughts going through that man's head because he's the one that began that journey, and that's just he only talked about a little bit, but even that friendship between the two of them, that is absolutely remarkable. But let's transition because our last show we talked about what it would be like if we said last show that what would you do? I think you asked me the question, what would you do if Noah Schultz debuted for the Ozzie night? And I'm like, that'd be amazing if it happened later in the season. Sure enough, that happened a couple days later.
4 months. We were 4 months a little early.
But yeah, let's talk about because tonight was his second start. So let's brush through some Noah talk really quickly before we transition to the schedule.
Yeah.
I believe I commented on after his first start against the Rays what I saw from Noah, and if I recall, the only thing I truly, I guess, had negativity for Noah was the fact that he had a ball. I get like in the moment, the nerves are going, but you have a ball hit right back to you, right? You're trying to get one out, take it to first, but he saw that runner going to home, and he tossed it, and it went to the backstop, and 2 runs scored.
I'm not
So
gonna lie. I completely omitted that play from any. I just forgot about it. Like somebody
yeah,
hit me with the Men in Black beam, and I just forgot about that play. So I'm not even gonna touch on that.
yeah. So the only thing I gotta say to Noah is, a know when the ball is hitting to you, where to go with the ball, save yourself, give yourself some, it's just gonna be 1 run that scores, right? Take the out, continue on with your performance. I've got full confidence that Noah next time will know where to go when the ball's hitting to him again. Granted, his first start, nerves getting to him. Obviously, you saw he was missing in on his pitches, and as a pitcher, when I'm seeing you miss in, that's perfectly fine. I'd rather you miss in than anywhere else on the plate.
Yep,
Um,
1000%.
and I forgot someone like had like a whole ass breakdown of Noah after that start. I forgot who the username was or the Twitter account, but he was talking about. I think he said he was going too much out or down and out, which I hardly saw him even touching that part of the zone in that start. So I totally disagreed with what that person then was going with that breakdown. I mean, obviously, I'd want to see him, Noah go that route, tossing down and away to righties. But again, that's just strategization that's coming later in his starts this season, I would imagine. But I really thought, besides that first inning, the way he got back into that performance, commanded the zone, I thought it was a really good start. Could have been better, yes. But you saw the velocity, you saw location, everything a part of that start. I thought it went better than expected, considering where he was last year with the knee issues he was having to come into that debut this early on in the season and to face a team like the Rays who will tear you to death analytically, who I'm sure they were prepared for that start. I thought he did well in that matchup, better than what I was expecting. Um, and to give my feedback to the second start, I didn't get to see too much of it live, but from what I did see from highlights, it looked like he was starting to bring himself back to nailing the inside more frequently than missing it, which I love that happened for him. Because it looked like that's just a part of what he wants to do. He wants to come right at you as a righty, and that's what I love to see. Um, Everything was hitting. That cutter was working. The sinker to lefties down and in was beautiful. He looked really comfortable in that second start, and that's what you want to see for a rookie in his rookie season. And on the road in a minor league ballpark that for hitters, it's more favorable for them. He was amazing, only giving up, what was it, one earned run and 5 innings with 6 strikeouts. Absolutely fantastic from Noah in that second start. Jay, go ahead and take it away.
Man, I tweeted today, said he was economical, like a 2008 Toyota Camry XLE. Like you said, Gonzo qualified for the win. Only 82 pitches in 5 innings. We talked about Dylan Cease earlier, who hovers around that 95 to 100 pitch uh, area in the fifth, going into probably 5 2/3. So he didn't really exhaust his pitch count like he did against Tampa. I want to go back to their game plan. They did a good job of bringing him off the mound and making him a complete baseball player. They didn't allow him to just sit on the mound and get comfortable as far as just delivering and executing his pitches. They turned him into a defender, and we seen that happen with the E1 on the throw to the plate and now covering, first base. It's a very awkward situation for a guy like Noah Schultz coming off the mound and having to make a baseball play. But that's going to go away over time. You spoke about him drilling that low inside corner on right-handed batters. That's a feel and command pitch, because when you pitch right-handers inside, you could ask Hawk Harrelson. He talked about it all the time on the broadcast. Like, you got to show and bust those right-handed hitters inside, make them move around in the box. A lot of hitters, especially when they got the handedness, could I say, the advantage, the righty versus lefty, or the 75% of the time that a lefty faces the pitcher. Dan talked about that earlier when we had the chart of the three come outcome. Like, there was only one right-handed hitter in that situation as far as like with the three, and that was just Hunter Goodman, right? So Noah being able to treat and get count leverage on right-handed hitters, you bring that slider back into play. You don't have anybody sit on your fastball as a left-handed hitter, because I'm not gonna lie. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gonzo. Lefty on lefty, left-handed pitchers have been getting destroyed by left-handed hitters this year, the last 2 years, basically. You see guys like Shohei Ohtani, Kyle Schwarber. It doesn't care. It doesn't matter who James Wood is hitting against. Does it really matter if Murakami's facing a lefty, Gonzo? It doesn't. You're going to get the same run value. You're going to get the same three outcome, no matter the handedness that he's facing. So Noah Schultz, you will want to see him be a better defender, come off the mound, whatever. But as long as he commands the strike zone against right-handed hitters, he could grab easier strikes. Because look at Bo Bichette, Marcus Semien, all the Mets hitters that was just jammed up, getting pitched inside. Like Caleb Thielbar damn near had a perfect inning in the ninth. We're talking about a 37-year-old setup man having to have closer leverage. As long as he commands the inside part of the plate, he can have success. And that's not a velocity thing. That's a makeup thing. Like fucking Dan said earlier, you can tell the makeup of a guy. So when the chips are down, you can still trust in what they bring to the table organically. So what Noah Schultz brought to the table organically today was a very economical, mature start. So I was happy. I'm okay, even with the stuff. Because think about this, Gonzo. What has he given up outside of the first inning against Tampa?
It's a good point.
3 innings that day, 8 innings today,
Mhm.
2 earned runs in 8 innings. That's
More
what
important.
that. Yeah, go ahead.
More importantly, that whip, I think it's like 0.9 after, like you said, after that
He got
first
a
inning.
3.8 ERA with a 0.9 whip. What does that mean? A
And
3.86. I'm sorry, 3.86 with a 9.6 whip.
bro, the flaw that they said about talk about the walks, the walk rate he had with the knee issue, like I just knew that potential that Noah has, that he would work through it. And it's just remarkable that he's beginning off this strong with his command to start his debut season.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm right there with you. We got plenty of the season to talk about Noah, so we'll get to him as the season rolls through. Let's transition to the schedule outlook,
Oh,
Jay.
boy.
We've got a series on the road versus the
In the
Arizona
desert.
in the desert at Chase Field, Tuesday through Thursday this week, and then we come home on Friday, Saturday, Sunday versus the Washington Nationals, who have a potential NL Cy Young and James Wood coming to the rate, who is looking to take it to
You
where your
talking
old,
about NL Cy Young with James Wood? Have you
who's
been
looking
drinking?
to put the ball in your old season seats in left center there.
He got some
Um,
good opposite field power, bro. Like easy, easy.
Easy. So let's take a look at least the first three games, the matchups. Tuesday's outlook looks like Sean Burke. Maybe you see Grant Taylor start that game and then Sean Burke follows, with Merritt Kelly opposing that matchup. And then on Wednesday, you have Rodriguez versus K.
That's gonna
Um,
be a
Rodri-
nice. Hey, that's gonna be a good test. We're
that's a
gonna
good.
get to that in a
uh,
minute. Who's going Thursday?
Thursday is Davis Martin versus Soroka, former White Sox Soroka, who is off to a magnificent start to his season in Arizona. Honestly, Jay, at first, with how the Diamonds have been playing, I was thinking that this was going to be a tough matchup, but now I'm looking at the pitching matchup side of this.
We got a chance.
I think the White Sox, Jay, I think they might win at home or on the road. Sorry, they might take
Yes.
the series.
So I'm like, we've been in situations to where the White Sox are 6 games under 500, but they not only swept somebody this year, but they've won series. So you can absolutely, if you're a gambling man and you want to look at the odds, you can go with White Sox money line against Arizona. And I'm gonna tell you why. This is a good opportunity for the rotation, the Anthony Kays, the Davis Martins to pitch close together. Not to take anything away from Sean Burke, but you like your odds with Kay followed up with Davis Martin, because not only have they thrown the ball well, but those are two pitchers that haven't taxed your bullpen. They've given you solid starts back to back. The White Sox are starting to hit the baseball. I don't know if you know, but for the last 3 days, Murakami is averaging batter's eye or berm. And you want to talk about him doing that shit in a AAA ballpark? The balls are being pummeled, Gonzo. These are not cheap home runs. Like, I don't know if you've seen it. Somebody was sitting in a 108, the home run that he hit at the rate down the right field line. Like, somebody tried to catch that bare hand their fingers swollen on Twitter. Like, these are nukes, and they're leaving any ballpark. So people are on the internet talking about what he did. It's a AAA ballpark. It doesn't matter. They're leaving any stadium regardless. And you're bringing that into a hitter's paradise. Imagine he hits it into the gap swimming pool. Batter's eye off the center field wall. Like, he's capable of that.
I think Mooney's coming to Chicago with double-digit home runs.
Yeah.
After Chase Field. I got another take.
They do got Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte.
I think the White Sox are going to have a winning week this week. I think they're taking both series.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid.
I think they take 2 or 3 for each series.
I'm not going to lie. CJ Abrams and James Wood kind of scare me because we're not in a situation to where Wood's in one of those like slumps, and CJ Abrams is just putting on a fucking show to start the season.
They've got to go up against Noah Schultz in one of those 3.
That's disgusting. I mean, we were just talking about his ability to neutralize right-handed hitters. You mean to tell me he's facing lefties that will expand the zone? That's sick. And then you got Luis Garcia too in the lineup, a left-handed hitter. So I mean,
and I think Grant Taylor's going to get a start in that series as well because Fetty is.
What do you mean a start? What do you mean a start?
He's going to open up.
Open up to how many pitches? 80. Like
probably not 80. Maybe 2 innings. I think you'll see him for 2 innings for 2 starts this week.
I mean, he hasn't gone 2 innings this year at all. Wow.
Not yet.
And I feel like we're publicly stretching him out to be a closer. Like not a closer, but a starter. But I'm trying to figure out why the front office is kind of hesitant to let him get a traditional start. Like, what's stopping him from having a Sean Burke type role on the team instead of just pitching him in the 6th and the 7th?
Actually, correct myself. He did get 2 innings in Kansas City once.
What was his pitch count?
27 pitches in those 2 innings.
So you mean to tell me in 2 innings, Gonzo? If I'm the organization, why can't I cap his pitch count at 50? Because what if he gets through 2 innings with 35, but you want to see 50 competitive pitches out of him before you can say, all right, come on. See, we got to stop with the inning thing, and we just got to let the eye test. Because, like, Grant Taylor's been great. Yeah, a couple of inherited runners scored, but at the end of the day, I don't think you can be at the mercy of your bullpen letting Grant Taylor go 50 pitches. 50 pitches twice a week. If he throws Tuesday, 50 pitches, you don't use them until Saturday, Sunday. It's just that simple. You have enough starting arms to absorb the inning total. Like,
yeah, I think, I don't know, Justin brought up Bannister said in the score he wants to keep pushing him more in innings and eventually him as a starter. And I think that's what we talked about even last week is I think later in the season that's what they're going to do. But for now, they got to work out those stretching him out because, again, he hasn't seen these. I think the most of innings he's seen as a pro is 36 innings. And he already has 11 innings already. So he's already a third of the way there already. So we got to be mindful. Jay, that wraps up the schedule. Or Jay, what's your prediction for both series?
Well, I think we got a better chance of winning a couple of games in Arizona because a lot of our left-handed hitters are going to see right-handed stuff from Arizona. So at least you're not going to be one of the people that are getting pinch hit for down the stretch. You're not really worried about Arizona's bullpen either. Even though Paul Sewald has been decent, there's still a lot of turbulence in the setup in the middle relief. I feel like against Washington, James Wood, CJ Abrams is a load right now. And even though we're going to face Noah Schultz, I just don't see us winning back-to-back series. I don't think nature would allow me to enjoy back-to-back series wins. Actually, that would be 3 in a row. the White Sox winning 3 series in a row via the 2 out of the 3, or maybe a potential Toronto Phantom sweep between the Snakes or the Natties, but I don't see us winning back-to-back series. So I feel like maybe CJ Abrams, James Wood do something out of the ordinary, or our bats just go cold. But outside of that, Gonzo, I've been okay with the performance of the team. So I'm just in between the White Sox winning the series. I think the Diamondbacks is the better route to do that.
I like to hear that. So I hear a split from Justin this week.
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll work with it. You might be correct at the end of the day. Justin, it's that time of the show. Picks to click. Slopko won last
Come
week.
on, bro. Why?
Slopko won with Colson. Colson Montgomery is off the board. Congrats to Slopko for winning the first picks to click for the 2025 season. Slopko is going to pick the one and only, the Japanese Southside Samurai, Murakami. So Murakami is his pick. I'm gonna go with a guy that's off to a hot start that came back from injury, and that is Pereira. Pereira's off
That's
the
a good
board.
pick.
Jay, you're up. You're up.
Oh man, it's tough. So can't go Colson. You pick Everson. I lost with Quero. Can't run it back.
Is Kyle Teal coming back this week?
Not really. I don't think so.
Next week.
I'm not gonna lie, Gonzo. You know what? Give me Chase my draw. I like what he's done in Oakland. He was on base a lot, raises OPS to a little bit over 7 now. I think it's 711. Literally. Yeah, you're gonna have to give me my draw.
I think Mac will love to hear that.
684. 684 OPS.
And OJ's gonna go with Antonacci. So the picks to click are as follows. Slavko's going with Mooney. I'm going with Pereira. Jay's going with Maidroth. And OJ wraps it up with the Italian sensation, Sam Antonacci, who had his second hit tonight. So hopefully that gets him going, because we need to see more.
Let me ask you a question, Gonzo.
Yeah, go ahead.
And 460 at bats, let's just say, think about that number.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Sam Antonacci's on base would be if you give him that sample size? Just give me a rough ballpark number. Because I'm thinking he could be a 330 on base guy.
I was gonna say I'm 340-ish.
But that'd be a sample sized help number too, because if you raise that to 570 at bats, that's probably gonna come down to about 315, 320. So he's gonna have to slug over 430. He's gonna have to give me basically a little bit more than Kyle Teal, the way it's looking right now, for it to be in the lineup. Because if he doesn't, that'll be basically Kansas City Andrew Benintendi you have, especially with what he's doing defensively in left field. So you're making a carbon copy of him right now for less than the price. So that's his floor. That's great, actually, because if you do give him 400 at bats and it's a 345 on base percentage, then I mean, he's not going to strike out that much. So what he's doing when he puts the ball in play could be a huge aspect. And you want to talk about the species of player you want to put around them. I feel like if you're going to have big 3 outcome guys in the belly of the beast in the heart of the lineup, you have to supply them with on-base guys. Because if Murakami and Colson Montgomery is hitting alone, or just a guy on first with 2 outs, that dramatically changes how they're being pitched to, because those guys can't strike out. So you necessarily don't have to pitch around them in some aspects, but the more people that you put on base, the chances are they're going to get pitched to, they're going to get thrown more strikes. Like you're not going to be able to throw that curveball in the dirt if you know Antonacci might take off. You know what I'm saying? Like you're going to throw Colson Montgomery and Murakami more fastballs, more competitive uh breaking balls that can't be too far off the plate. Like you're in a position where somebody could challenge a borderline strike three call, and that could be the difference, right? So at the end of the day, you got to make sure that you hit these guys in a position to where they're comfortable in receiving like good stuff. And the only way to do that is to give the pitcher something else to think about. A guy you got to check on, use a couple engagements. You know what I'm saying? Vary your uh, time to the plate. You're pitching already out of the stretch with just the guy on first base. Imagine if you put two guys on first base, first and third, first and second. Mydroff and Antonacci, the second part of the season, are literally living on base 320, 330 situation. Like that could dramatically change how people are pitching a Colson and Mooney. Runners in scoring position. Look at some of the damage that's been done. We're talking about grand slams, 3-run homers off somebody's batter's eye. Like, think about this, Gonzo. With runners in scoring position, Murakami's have made baseballs disappear. Like, literally, they're gone. Over the batter's eye, in the trees in the berm where people sitting in the shade in Sacramento. That's what's going on when you get guys on base in front of these people. Colson came back later on in the frame. I think that was after Pereira flew out. Colson, boom, straight center field. Like we're talking about. Do you know how hard it is to hit a ball over Denzel Clark's head? Like the White Sox are hitting the baseball where people aren't even sitting. So
There you go. It's a good ballpark to hit in. We
yeah,
we need to see the consistency, and especially with this offense lately.
Antonacci
Uh,
might have a good series.
you know who's having a good performance lately? Braden Montgomery.
Oh, he's been on
I
fire.
I can't wait to see him in Charlotte, hopefully in the next month or so.
Do you
Jay,
do you see all
shout.
the Braden Montgomery propaganda
We're
on the
gonna get
internet?
to. We got plenty of Braden to talk about, especially when next month's guests roll in,
Oh
because
yeah,
I'm gonna try to bring Elijah on soon.
I think Elijah
But
Evans is famous.
he is famous. He's more famous than us. He's breaking news too. He broke the Noah Schultz news. Shout out to Elijah, which begins our shout outs. Jay, take it over.
So first and foremost, got to give a shout out to Asia because Gonzo, we found a new hobby. She loves Legos, so every time me and her link up, we go buy some Legos, and she gets a decent day out of it. We went to Lucy's yesterday. I watched the end of the Red Sox Cardinals game for some reason. Um, I'm not gonna lie. She's been one of the best things that's happened to me. And at the end of the day, being able to watch baseball with her, like get a bite to eat, like those are the little things I look forward to. And and when you get people like her who are angels and they work hard, like it's good to spend quality time with them. And obviously, Legos, food, and baseball is something we got in common. So, just shout out to Asia. And I got to give you a shout out too, Gonzo, because like Dan said earlier, it's been a hard watch for White Sox fans because you want this team to be good. And somehow, some way, you have kept me in the realm of the Chicago White Sox, keeping the relevancy at the all-time high because like we've literally covered a team that has lost 100 games a few times and we still do it with a lot of compassion. We understand the game, even though we get frustrated with the Sox. Like we still love them, and you've been a big cornerstone and why I love the White Sox, like emotionally, and I have the hard knee jerk takes because we care about it. So shout out to you because I mean you're one of the elements that keeps the White Sox like at the forefront of my baseball fandom, even though like you make me sick to my stomach and I puke like probably 6 times a week because you tell me something about the White Sox like I don't want to hear. I still love it because that's what you and this team means. Like it giving me an opportunity to have something to care about, just like I care about Asia and the rest of my family. Like you look forward to being around these people, and even though you make me absolutely pull the rest of my hair out, I wouldn't love to talk about the White Sox with you every week. Like it's been great. So shout out to you. Unfortunately, you're trying to trade my catcher and my DH, who's going to have a 900 plus OPS. You still want to trade him away. So through all of that, thank you for being a part of my White Sox fandom.
I do want to trade our backup catcher.
Come
And
on, dog. You couldn't have just said
uh,
thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. I do want to
but
trade the catcher. We need to get proper value. Leave me alone. Like you're
as
harassing
far
me on the show.
as far as Murakami goes, I'm kind of in the middle right now. I'm caught in the middle. Give me one more month, and I'll have a firm decision on where I stand on Murakami.
I see why
Um,
Slavko be turning red talking to you. Like I'm turning beige right now.
RAP Slav. We'll have to get him back soon when the stars align.
He better
Um,
not win pick to click again, or I'll call it corporate.
Shout out to my one and only, and that is Soraya. We had a really great weekend. We went down to see, her side of the family out in Fort Wayne, and she is going through a hard time right now because, unfortunately, her last grandparent's starting to go down that stretch in life, and we're kind of taking it day by day. And but I do want to give a shout out to her mom because that is her mom's mother. So not only is Soraya going through it right now, but prayers and thoughts to Tammy, you know, our mom, and she's going through it as well. So, for the whole side of Soraya's family, we wish them the best right now. Um, but also shout out to our fan of the show, Dan Evans, who we just had on for 90 minutes of conversation tonight. He had an error that he wanted to make. Or I'm going to talk about the error that he had on the show that he texted me about. He said I erred on Ozzie's number. Aparicio, another Venezuelan, had worn 11, so he couldn't wear that. And Concepcion was Ozzie's favorite, and he wore 13. Chico wore 17, but that number was already taken by a veteran, so he's just clarifying. Thanks, Dan, for giving us the facts, because we'll take all that we can get. And thanks for coming on with us. We will see you in August, and the next time we have you. That was a fantastic show. And everybody in the chat, that goes for Justin as well. And we saw a Twins fan. I don't know how we had a Twins fan.
Come
Um,
on, you know who it was. Stop playing, man. You had his fantasy score up there
I
for a
know,
few
I know,
minutes.
I know. He was 14-0 this week. Congrats to Caleb. He actually has relevance, which is something that his Minnesota teams usually don't have lately. Um, Shout out to Caleb. Um, oh God.
You're
Uh,
disgusting.
it is what it is. All right. Next week's guest, we're going to continue great conversations. Dan was absolutely fantastic. It's going to be hard for this guy to follow up, but I have faith in them to give us a really great conversation. Next Monday night, join us, Sox Optimist, one of our favorite
Ooh.
West Coast Twitter personalities, is going to be joining us on the show. We're going to see what he's lighting up for next week. But tune in, watch out for this dialogue that's about to take off. Thank you for joining us and spending almost 2 hours of your Sunday night with us. Thank you for tuning in and watching the Blackout.